Welcome back to Sikho German, Lektion 20, and we are learning a very important question word in German, Welch. In English, this translates to which. This lesson will help you ask specific selection questions like which one in German. What is Welch? Welch means which, and it is used when we choose one option from many. It always comes before a noun like Welches Buch liest du? Which book are you reading? Here is what makes Welch different from other W questions. Most W questions stand alone, like Was machst du? Or Wo wohnst du? But Welch is an interrogative pronoun, which means it always attaches to a noun. You cannot just say Welch, you must say Welches Buch liest du? Before diving into it, hit the subscribe button for future lessons. Now that we know the basic rule, let's look at the sentence structure. The structure is very specific. Welch form plus noun plus verb plus subject. Because the Welch word and the noun count together as the first position, the verb stays firmly in the second position. Let's see how Welch changes. Because Welch acts like a definite article, der, die, das, it changes its ending based on the gender of the noun and the case of the sentence. For masculine, it is Welche in nominative, accusative is Welchen, and dative is Welchem. For feminine, it stays Welche in nominative and accusative, but becomes Welche in dative. For neuter, it is Welches in nominative and accusative, and Welchem in dative. For plural, it is Welche in nominative and accusative, and Welchen in dative. And remember, in dative plural, you usually add an N to the end of the noun itself.
Let's look at examples to see how this works. We will start with the masculine noun, der Film. In the nominative case, Welcher Film ist gut? Which movie is good? Because der Film is the subject of the sentence, we use the nominative masculine ending er, giving us Welcher. In simple words, Welch plus der equals Welcher. Now, watch what happens when the movie becomes the object of the sentence. Welchen Film siehst du? Which movie are you watching? Here, du is the subject doing the action. The movie is the direct object receiving action. In the accusative case, der changes to den, so Welcher changes to Welchen. And here is the dative case. Zu welchem Film gehst du? Which movie are you going to? The preposition zu always requires a dative case. In dative, the masculine der changes to dem, which means our question word becoming Welchem. Now, let's use a feminine noun, die Tasche, the bag. In the nominative case, Welche Tasche ist neu? Which bag is new? Because die Tasche is the subject of the sentence, we use the nominative feminine ending I, giving us Welche. Feminine nouns are easy because they don't change in the accusative. Welche Tasche kaufst du? Which bag are you buying? Even though du is the subject and the bag is the direct object, the feminine die stays die, so the word remains Welche. But look at the dative case. Bei welcher Tasche hast du Probleme? To which bag are you having problems? The preposition bei forces the dative case. In dative, the feminine die changes to der. Therefore, our question word must match that er ending, becoming Welchem.
Next, let's look at neuter nouns using das Buch. In the nominative case, Welches Buch ist interessant? Which book is interesting? Because the book is the subject and it is a das word, we add the es ending to get Welches. Like feminine nouns, neuter nouns do not change in the accusative. Welches Buch liest du? Which book are you reading? Here, du is reading the book, making the book the direct object. Because the neuter das stays das in accusative, the word remains welches. Now let's look at the dative case. Mit welchem Buch lernst du Deutsch? Which book are you using to learn German? The preposition mit requires a dative, so our question word must take that em ending, giving us welchem. Finally, let's look at plural nouns using die Freunde. In the nominative case, welche Freunde kommen heute? Which friends are coming today? Because die Freunde is the subject, the plural die gives us the ending e, making it welche. In the accusative case, the plural form stays the same. Welche Freunde rufst du an? Which friends are you calling? Here, du is calling friends, making friends the direct object. Because the plural die stays die in accusative, the word remains welche. But the dative plural case is special. Mit welchen Freunden gehst du ins Kino? Which friends are you going to the cinema with? The preposition mit requires a dative, and in the dative plural, die changes to den, which is why we use welchen. Notice we also add an n to plural nouns in dative. Freunde becomes Freundin in dative plural.
Now it's time to exercise what we've learned. Fill in the blank with the correct form of Welch. Think about the gender shown in parentheses and decide if the word is the subject, nominative, the direct object, accusative, or following a dative preposition. Pause the video and try to solve them. Let's check the answers. Excellent job if you got the case endings right. Let's summarize the rules for today. First, welch means which and is always used with a noun. Second, it changes based on der, die, das, and plural. Third, it changes again depending on its case in the sentence, nominative, accusative, or dative. The structure is always welch plus noun plus verb plus subject. And finally, the plural rule. Nominative and accusative are welche, but dative is welchen, usually adding an n to the end of the noun. Take a moment to review the forms of welch. Practice by asking which one about objects around you. Great job! You now understand how to use the question word welch perfectly. Keep learning with Sikho German, and don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button. Also, share it with your friends who are learning German and comment on a sentence made with Welch. Dankeschön. Thank you so much for learning with Sikho German. See you in the next lesson. Bis bald.